Hi everyone, Sarah from Sarah Homfray Embroidery, and this week I have been down to Leicester Art Museum and Gallery to see an exhibition of an amazing embroiderer called Mary Linwood. So I'm betting most of you have never heard of her, so I am going to tell you all about her, and I'm going to show you some pieces from the exhibition, and I've also bought a catalogue of the embroideries in the exhibition, and we're going to give this away too, so keep watching to see how you can enter that giveaway. So the exhibition was called Mary Linwood Art, Stitch and Life, and it was at Leicester Museum and Art Gallery, which is actually where she lived and worked, and the exhibition was a retrospective of the work of Mary, who was an 18th century embroiderer and artist. So alongside the embroideries of Mary are new textile works by an artist called Ruth Singer. So Ruth actually curated the pieces in this exhibition, and she's also made some new pieces and put those in alongside the works of Mary, all about Mary's life and her legacy. And if you want to see Ruth's work, I will link to her website below this video. I'll put it in the description below this video. Do go and check out her work on her website. She curated this exhibition, as I say, and she's got some really interesting blog articles on how they actually put the exhibition as well, which is really interesting to see. So do go and check out the work of Ruth Singer as well. So Mary was born in 1755 in the city of Birmingham, and her family actually moved to Leicester in 1764. It's about 35 miles northeast of Birmingham. And her mother set up a private school there for the girls in Leicester, which Mary actually ran after her mother died. Mary ran it for another 50 years, and that school was called the Priory. And you can see pictures of the Priory here. It looked like a beautiful old building, but it is no longer there, I'm afraid. There's some really horrible, ugly, modern shops in its place now. But there is a blue plaque marking the spot of where the Priory stood. And if you're not familiar with blue plaques, I'll tell you what they are. They are a permanent historical marker put up to commemorate a link between that location and a famous person, event or a former building, as is in this case on the site of where the blue plaque is. And you can find them in cities all over the UK. And so anybody who's got a blue plaque tended to be somebody of note. So Mary has a blue plaque where the Priory once stood, currently next to Specsavers Opticians. It's there now, and unfortunately when we visited that was behind some scaffolding, but we did manage to get to see it. We did manage to get to read it, and it marks the place where the Priory once stood, so where Mary lived and Mary worked. So Mary's mother Hannah was also an embroiderer, and this is probably where Mary learnt her art and her embroidery skills, but she also taught other subjects at the Priory School, including geography, music, maths, literature, history and languages. So Mary was a very talented young lady, but what she was mainly known for is her embroidery. So large-scale embroidered copies of famous paintings. And she worked these in a worsted wool in the long and short stitch. So you might be familiar with this technique now. We have done videos on this technique. So long and short embroidery in a long and short stitch, sometimes called silk shading, or you might also know it as needle painting. And it's thought that she may have had her wools actually spun and dyed in Leicester. That industry was in Leicester at the time, so it's very possible that she had them made for her in Leicester. And she actually also used some silk in her work as well, and I'll show you this in a little bit. So she used some silk to highlight certain features of the work. So she worked in a woolen thread, she worked this on a linen ground, or sometimes a wool with linen mixed in it, and she worked in her woolen threads and in her silk threads. So here's an example of the kind of embroidery that she did, so you know what I'm talking about. This one is called the Head of St Anthony, and the whole thing is in stitch, so you can see the painterly effect of it. She's copied a painting, but she's in stitched the entirety of it. It's all stitching, but don't worry, we'll come back and have a look at the Head of St Anthony in a short while. So she completed her first embroidery at the age of 13 and the last one in her 70s, although she did actually carry on quite a long time after this as headmistress of the Priory School, right up until the year before her death. So she was into her late 80s when she was still teaching, but she did stop stitching in her 70s, and it's thought she completed maybe, people are not too sure, but maybe over 100 pieces in her lifetime. So Mary started exhibiting her artwork as a young woman, and through family connections with a manufacturer and engineer called Matthew Bolton, she actually got an audience with Queen Charlotte. So this is Queen Charlotte here. You can see the beautiful painting of her, and she was a keen supporter of British artists and Mary in particular, and she actually became a patron of Mary's first ever exhibition. So this led to many more exhibitions, including touring displays, which made her more widely known, and she met many crowned heads of Europe. She exhibited in Russia, and Catherine the Great offered her £40,000. This is back in the 1700s, for the whole collection, and the Tsar offered her £3,000 for just one piece. She actually refused all that because she wanted her work to remain in England. Her annual exhibitions of her embroidery made her pretty famous, though, in her time, and she was so successful she actually commissioned the artist John Hopner to paint her portrait. He happened to be the principal painter to the Prince of Wales, who would later become George IV, so she was actually pretty well connected at this point. So in 1809, Mary set up her own gallery, and she set that up in Leicester Square, but Leicester Square in London, not in Leicester. And an interesting fact, this was the first gallery in London to actually be run by a woman. So she predated Marie Tussaud, who you might know of Madame Tussaud's fame, by about 25 years, actually. And her first exhibition at Leicester Square was also the first to be lit by gaslight. So she was a little bit of a trailblazer, Mary. So the Leicester Museum and Art Gallery, where this exhibition is held, is actually on the edge of the shopping area in Leicester, but the gallery wasn't open till actually a few years after Mary died, so she wouldn't have known this building, but I'm sure she would have thoroughly approved of a permanent art space in Leicester to show exhibitions, and this exhibition space has been free. So ever since it was open, it was free, and it's still free today, which is a wonderful thing about our art galleries in this country. They're all free to go in, and anybody can see the work that's in there. Okay, so let's go inside and have a look around. So this is the exhibition space, been beautifully laid out. So let's have a look at the first piece of Mary's embroidery. Okay, so let's go back to the head of St Anthony that I showed you right at the beginning of this video. You can see the style and the technique that she was using here, something we would call crewel work today, so a wool on a linen ground. And this is attributed to Mary, but it's not in her catalogue. So Mary actually wrote a catalogue for the pieces in the exhibitions that she held in London. So a lot of these pieces are in the catalogue, so we know that they're Mary's, but this one isn't in there, so that's why it's just been attributed to Mary. So Mary did her embroideries from actual paintings, and she would often go and see and study these in real life, but it's not known which painting or which artist this piece was from. And I want to point out the colours of this because they've actually faded quite a bit. You can see the colours on the front of it, but if I show you the back of it, you can see how much brighter the colours were. And I quite like the stitchy feel on the back. She had quite a rhythm to her embroideries and the way that she did them, because you can see the face quite clearly, but you can see the lengths of thread on the back as she's finished it. But I quite like the style of it on the back, actually. But it shows you that she didn't use a layer on the back. She didn't have another backing fabric on it. She just stitched on the one layer of linen fabric. But just want you to see how bright those colours are in the face and in the cheeks, much brighter on the back, so they have faded a little bit on the front. Okay, so let's move on to this Roman soldier. This was probably one of my favourite ones in the exhibition, and again another one attributed to Mary, not necessarily known whether she actually did this one or not because it's not in her catalogue, but you can see the beautiful stitching in this. It's really alive. His feathers in his helmet and his beard and his moustache and his amazing shapes on his face to create the contours of its face. It really was a beautiful stitching technique that she had to really pull out the features, and it really does look like a painting. The embroideries in this exhibition do have quite different styles in them. You look at the different faces and they do look a little bit different, but then again there's also ones that Mary did at the beginning of her stitching career, if you want to call it that, and again those at the end, and you do improve throughout your time, so you kind of have to work out if it's the same person, the same style throughout 50 years of stitching. So it is quite hard to work out if this was one of Mary's or not from her other pieces, and there were lots of other people doing this kind of embroidery at the same time that Mary was. So we move now to the largest piece in the room. It's absolutely huge. This is Woodman in a Storm, and it's 96 by 66 inches. That's 2.4 metres by 1.6 metres. It's enormous, and you can see me standing next to it here. Can't really see the top of it, and I have to get down on my knees to see the bottom. So when you think how she might have actually stitched this, and she'd need some special frames, because how do you reach the middle of it and still see what you're doing? You have to step back from it to see how the work is progressing and how your shading is progressing, and this is so huge I can't imagine quite how she would have done this. You're right close up to it and you're seeing the detail, but you need to look at it from far away, so this one is particularly impressive, I think. So we do know which painting this was done from, and this is one by Thomas Gainsborough, so a well-known painter from that time. And what's really interesting about this one is the original painting that Thomas Gainsborough did was actually destroyed in a fire. So this copy that Mary has done of it is a really important record now of a painting that no longer exists. So it's fantastic to have Mary's embroidery of it, so we know what the painting looks like even though the painting is not around anymore. It was also reglazed in 2025, but the old glass was taken off it and discovered to be actually dulling the colours down quite a lot. When they put the new glass on it, they could see these more vibrant colours coming through. And again, it has faded quite a bit. A lot of these ones have faded, but when you consider how old they are, I think it's quite amazing they're still in one piece really. But they put this new glass on it and you can see these colours coming through much more strongly. So this one is King Lear, so another piece stitched by a famous arting, this one by Joshua Reynolds. And the background is really interesting in this one because you can see another technique that Mary has used. She's actually painted the background in blue. You can see it a little bit on the front, just through the stitches. You can see the ground behind is a blue colour behind the blue stitching. But if I show you the back one as well, the back view of it here, you can clearly see the blue paint around the outside of the head, and it goes down the sides and along the bottom as well. And this was sort of like a background colour, and then she could stitch the blue over it, and then the blue would blend in more nicely. If you don't quite cover the ground, you can see the blue through it. She hasn't done it over the whole thing, so just this one specific colour, so I don't know if maybe that colour was harder to cover up, but you can clearly see this blue paint that she's added onto the background. So I mentioned earlier as well about using silk. She used wool for the main areas of her embroidery, but she did use some silk to highlight it, and you can see that here in King Lear. You can see it a little bit on his hair, just highlights a little bit of the hair where the light would be hitting it, and also some on the face as well. She's just added some highlights on the cheeks and the nose so that you can see clearly the shine from him. So it just adds an extra bit of dimension to her pieces, and it's quite unusual to use silk and a wool together in this way, but just by adding those bits just makes them a little bit more three-dimensional. So Joshua Reynolds, the painter of the piece that she copied, he was a great supporter of Mary's work, and he would actually suggest paintings which he thought she should copy, and she has embroidered through her life quite a few of his paintings, so you may see some more of those by him as well. So this figure you may recognise. This is Napoleon, and this painting was painted by Thomas Phillips, and Mary actually made two copies of this. She gave one to her niece, and this one that she gave to her niece is actually in the Victoria and Albert Museum, so you can go and see that one there if you're in London and you're in the area of that museum. And there's a story also that Mary actually met Napoleon. It's not proven, but it's thought that she did in 1803, and that he awarded her with the Freedom of Paris, just showing the connections that Mary made. She was very well connected in her time. She knew lots of important people in her time, so it's worth remembering that when we talk about what happened to her work later. So that one is Napoleon, and whether she met him or not we don't know, but absolutely fantastic embroidery. So we've got something a little bit different now. So these are two much smaller pieces. They are stitched in black silk on a white silk background. And again, this first one is attributed to Mary, but it's not known for sure. But it's a kind of work that would have been done at the time. And they think that maybe Mary was given some copies of some prints, and she copied them in this technique of these black threads on this silk ground. The stitches are so delicate in these. You can see these beautiful details in this figure, and the really delicate shading. It's got this really kind of sketchy drawn feeling to it, and it is very tiny compared to her other ones. So really fine thread that's been used for this one. And there's a second one here as well, called Simply an Agricultural Scene. You can see that one here. This one hasn't been attributed to Mary, and actually it says the maker is unknown, but it's a similar style to that one, and again something that would have been done in the day. So they put these two pieces together, but I really wanted to show you this one because this one is gorgeous. The details in it are incredible. The subtle shading, the little cows and the little goat in there. Looks like somebody's just drawn it, but in stitch, an incredibly fine thread. And I think these are really beautiful, so I wanted to show you those. So Mary embroidered quite a few animals in her pieces, and here's part of one with a little cat in it. So everybody knows I love my little cats. So I thought I'd show you this one. And I'm going to actually show you the whole of this one in another video for our Patreons and our YouTube channel members. So if you want to see that embroidery and see some more of the embroideries from this exhibition with the animals in it, then do check out those on my YouTube channel, members, on my Patreon page. There is more details on that in the description below this video. Go and check out that. And just for a small amount a month, there's lots of extra content in there. So do go and have a look and see if there's something that inspires you. Okay, so let's get on to the giveaway for this. So here's the little catalogue from the exhibition with some really excellent photographs of the pieces in it, of the front and the back as well. So really nice little catalogue there, and I'm going to give this catalogue away. So all you need to do to enter is simply reply to this video in the comments below this video, and you need to put these words in. You need to put lost threads, and I'll put that on the screen for you now so you can see exactly what the words are you need to put in. You can get creative if you want to. It's always fun to read your comments, or you can just type in the words lost threads, but please spell it the same as it's spelled on the screen because we use that to pull the winner. So we will pick a winner at random, and we will announce that winner in a video on our Chit Chat Tuesday on Tuesday the 24th of February 2026. So we're going to give you until Wednesday the 18th of February to the end of play on that Wednesday to enter. We can only send the giveaway prize to countries that we actually send our orders to, I'm afraid. So I'm afraid that's no EU or EAA countries at the moment. So we will announce the winner in that video, and we will also leave a comment underneath your original comment in this video for how to get in touch with us so we can send your prize to you. We will do our very best to get hold of you, but if we don't hear from you within 2 weeks, we will pull the draw prize again. Okay, so let's get back to Mary. So Mary continued to exhibit her work until her death. So in 1844, during her annual visit to her exhibition in London, she was actually taken ill. She was taken back to Leicester and recovered a little bit for a while, but then she did catch the flu, and in her 90th year, she passed away. So when Mary died, her entire collection was actually offered to the British Museum, but they weren't able to accommodate it. So the work was auctioned by Christie's Auction House in 1846, bar just a few pieces, one of which was the Salvator Mundi, so a copy of the Salvator Mundi by the 17th century Carlo Dolci, which Mary actually left in her will to Queen Victoria. Mary previously been offered 3,000 guineas for this piece by the Marquis of Exeter of Burghley House, and again she refused it, and the whole collection at auction only bought a £300. And when you consider earlier what we mentioned about how much money she'd been offered by the heads of state of Europe for this collection, that it should only end up getting £300 is really actually quite sad. So you can now see Mary's work, however, in the Leicester Museum, also some of it in the Victoria and Albert Museum, including that amazing portrait as well, and in the Bowes Museum. So Mary was buried in the Church of St Margaret's in Leicester, and this is where her and her family used to worship, and she is buried here. And we went to have a look at the church, and unfortunately we weren't able to get inside because inside is Mary's memorial, and you can read the inscription on her memorial over here. So we had a little look around the church, around the outside instead. We could hear the organist playing inside and had a little look around the stones and just remembered Mary and her life and her legacy of embroidery. So I hope you've enjoyed learning about Mary. I certainly did, to discover these beautiful embroideries from this embroiderer I didn't know anything about. Somebody very famous in her day, but a little bit forgotten now. So I hope you've enjoyed learning about Mary and seeing these fantastic embroideries. And if you've enjoyed this video, do check out this one up here. I'm sure you're going to love this one too. I'd like to thank everybody for watching. Give it a thumbs up if you have enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.